After years of exile, war, and endless loss, King Charles II returned to an England desperate for joy. He came back as a king, but inside, he was a tired man searching for one moment of peace, one genuine smile, one person who saw him not as a crown but as a human being. He had no idea that the person destined to give him that peace was a girl selling oranges on the dirty streets of London. Her name was Nell Gwyn. She ran barefoot through markets, her hair loose, her laughter echoing above the noise of the city. She had nothing, no family name, no money, no protection, but she possessed a charm that cut through misery, and a courage that even royalty couldn't ignore. She first entered the theater, not as an actress, but as an orange seller. Men tossed coins just to hear her joke. Women envied the bold sparkle in her eyes. And soon, she found herself on stage where her wit, her warmth, and her beauty drew crowds like no other performer. One evening, everything changed. King Charles II entered the theater. Curtains rose, lights dimmed, and there stood Nell, radiant, fearless, captivating. Charles watched her as if she were the first real light he had seen in years. She made him laugh, a deep, genuine laugh he hadn't felt since childhood. And by the time the play ended, the king's heart had already chosen her. He sent for her after the show, and in typical Nell fashion, she replied, "Tell His Majesty, fear no king." That was the moment Charles fell, not for a court lady, not for a noblewoman, but for a girl who refused to bow. Their first meeting was a collision of two worlds. Charles spoke gently, politely, cautiously, but Nell sat as if they were old friends. She teased him, joked with him, looked directly into his eyes. She wasn't intimidated, she wasn't pretending, she was simply herself, and that honesty wrapped itself around Charles's tired heart like a warm shawl. He started visiting her more. Sometimes he went disguised. Sometimes he just wanted to sit beside her and hear her laugh. He told her things he told no one, his loneliness, his fears, the pressure of a nation on his shoulders. And Nell listened, not like a subject listening to her king, but like a woman listening to the man she was beginning to love. Behind closed doors, their bond deepened. Nell's touch quieted the storms inside him. Her presence made him forget the throne, the politics, the endless demands. With her, he didn't feel like His Majesty. He felt like Charles, a man who craved affection, warmth, and a refuge from the world. He would hold her hands, kiss her forehead, and whisper, "The world calls me king, but you are the queen of my heart." Nell, with her soft smile, would answer, "Keep your crown, I only want you." Their love wasn't about titles. It wasn't about control. It wasn't even about passion alone. It was about two souls finding comfort in each other. Meanwhile, the royal court was buzzing with jealousy. Dozens of mistresses competed for influence, women covered in diamonds, dripping in silk, raised in privilege. But Charles always returned to Nell. She didn't play games. She didn't manipulate. She didn't beg for power. She gave him something none of the others could. A real, raw, healing kind of love. Soon Nell gave birth to Charles's son. And in that intimate, emotional moment, Charles held her and whispered, "You have given me more than any queen ever could." She begged him to give their child a title. "Make him a duke, or I shall raise him a rose." Charles burst into laughter and granted her wish. Her son became the Duke of St. Albans. The girl who once sold oranges was now mother to a duke. But even as she rose higher, Nell never changed. She stayed loyal through fires, plagues, conspiracies, and wars. When Charles was overwhelmed, she became his quiet strength. She calmed him, soothed him, loved him, not as a king, but as the man she adored. When crowds shouted against the king's foreign mistress, Nell leaned from her carriage and shouted, "Good people, I am the Protestant whore." The people laughed and the riot disappeared. Only Nell could turn anger into laughter and save the king with a single joke. But love stories, no matter how powerful, meet their final chapter. When Charles grew very sick, the palace filled with fear. Ministers whispered, courtiers paced, but beside his bed, only one woman stayed, her hand wrapped around his, her eyes filled with tears she refused to shed. Nell, the woman who had loved him without title, without contract, without condition. In his final moments, Charles looked at his brother and made one last request. Let not poor Nellie starve. Not for a queen, not for a noblewoman. For Nell the woman is heart cherished until its last beat. After his death, Nell lived quietly, carrying memories instead of jewels. She never married, never sought another lover. Her heart remained with the man who saw greatness in her long before the world did. History remembers her as the people's mistress, the heart of the Restoration, and the woman who captured a king not with power, but with laughter, loyalty, and love deep enough to outshine every crown. This is the story of Nell Gwyn, the commoner queen behind the throne.